Hello, hello, everyone, friends, family, newcomers. Welcome back to Authenticity the Hard Way podcast. I am your host, Asha Zalika, and I am so grateful that you have decided to join me today. Um, I am excited that I am joining me today. Yesterday, these past few days have been energetically off the chain for me. Um, I am an earth empath, and so the various changes that Earth is experiencing in her evolution and this cycle of the sun that only comes around so many years. I don't know where the sun is. Not to get too astrological, but the sun is shooting off a lot of coronal mass ejections, solar flares to Earth. It's just a lot of stuff that is happening astrologically and in our own atmosphere here on Earth, and I feel it heavily. Yesterday, I was just bedridden, um, a lot of exhaustion, head pressure. Sometimes it felt like my body was just being crushed. Um, Foggy in the head. Like it was really bad. So I just rested and hydrated. I did light movements, light stretches to help my body to keep that energy from getting stacked, just blocked in my body. But anyway, I woke up this morning feeling a bit better, um, more coherent in my brain, and I have been going through a very interesting experience that was just foremost in my mind this morning, and I wasn't sure whether to share it or put it off for later. But then as I began moving around, and I realized that this is a very present experience. A lot of my experiences that I've put on the podcast have been from my past. But this one is very real because it's bringing things that have happened in my past directly into my future and being validated, or what's that word I want? Being, oh, I'm blanking. Confirmation. Thank you, Spirit, giving me confirmation um, for all of the messages and all of the messengers that God or the universe has sent to me up until this point. So that's an introduction of what I'll be speaking about today. But to newcomers, if you're new to the podcast, just a little introduction on authenticity the hard way. I believe, and this belief has morphed as of a couple weeks ago, but it's our harsh experiences that awaken us, draw our attention to, provoke us to, and even force us into evolving into the next highest version of ourselves. Because those experiences, the ones that break us, the ones that hurt to our core, the ones that completely dismantle our lives in some type of way, those are the ones that bring about the most change. And so that is what I've been doing. I've just been sharing my life experiences. I will be 55 years old on March 27th. And to be able to sit and look back at all of these years and see how I have transformed, what I've transformed out of and into, is amazing. And as my calling and as my desire, my heart's desire to help as a caregiver in the natural. I'm a caregiver. I'm also a caregiver in the spirit. I care. I love people. I care for people. I don't care if I'm in the grocery store, if somebody drops something, especially an elderly person, I'm there to pick it up. And the best way that I have seen and all that spirit and God and my ancestors and the celestial team that I have has shown me is that the only thing that I can really speak upon and the only thing that I can validate as truth is my experience. That's all we have to, outside of schooling, outside of book smarts or your college training or whatever have you. Our lives and the things that we have experienced are the best ways to help others through their experiences. I learned after having birthed 5 children, um, one C-section, but that a woman who had a male or, well, a woman who has not had a child, who has not birthed a child, cannot adequately help a woman who is going through labor and delivery. Now you go through your training, you do your practical, you learn the theoretical parts of labor and delivery. But until you have been on that bed with your skull feeling like it's splitting in two and your whole body is going through hell, if you have not experienced that, you cannot truly support a woman who is going through that pain. There is a connection, that a energetic, vibrational, or spiritual connection, whichever terminology you choose to use. There is a connection that is immediately forged between a woman who is going through pain and a woman who has been through that pain. I'm speaking of that pain specifically as women, but it does not. That's just the most powerful example I can give. However, when you have gone through trauma, gone through it, healed, when you have gleaned from that trauma and understand what that trauma, how it built you and how it broke you, to be able to share that with someone else who has gone through the same trauma or a different time of trauma with the same kind of storyline, maybe you could say. There's a connection that is made, like I said, energetically, vibrationally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. There is a connection that can be built between the one who has experienced it and come through with someone who is going through. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've felt this many times in my life. And so my gift, my token, I don't know, I'm still kind of foggy, but my desire is to be that bridge for you, um, by sharing my experiences. And if my experiences can help you across the bridge or bridge you to the other side of what you're going through, or just put a voice, since this is the podcast, put a voice to the fact that you absolutely can make it through better, stronger, wiser, more powerful than when you started. So that's authenticity the hard way. And there is a YouTube channel um, that I'm trying not to be repetitive. So there'll be different experiences from on the podcast and the YouTube channel. So that being said, let me get into. Oh no, wait. The podcast will be expanding, as is the YouTube channel. The podcast has been this in its third year. I have 27. This will be 28 episodes of 3 seasons, and my host has been Spreaker, and I just was led. I just did what I could do. I just jumped in, total body jump in, and Spreaker came up. I could afford it because it was free to start. And I just ran with it. It has been 3 years and I have had very little engagement. Now that I'm not downing Spreaker, anything like that. I don't do that. However, in these 3 years, I have not had the time to really dive into being a podcaster. um, I have been focused on just following spirit and getting my experiences out there, trusting that at some point, all of this podcaster, um, uh, podcasting field will come together for me. But because of all of the transitions that have happened in my life over these 3 years, when I started the podcast, I was in a motel room. Me and my son were living in Motel 6, and experiencing homelessness, just bouncing around trying to find a home of our own. And still evolving and healing through major trauma. And all that I could do was just to speak. I didn't know how to promote. I didn't know, and on Spreaker to do campaigns. It's costly. However, once I was able to pay for the hosting, then the podcast was put on various platforms as Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, um, Amazon Music, Audible, Deezer, and I'm blanking on the other one. But still, even though it has been distributed through other platforms, I still have no engagement. And until last year, well, about 6 months ago, I guess, um, once I had the YouTube channel up and running, I added the podcast to the YouTube channel, and that is when I started getting more listens. However, because YouTube is not affiliated with Spreaker, there's no monetization. Now, it's important for everyone to understand is that I am not looking to make an income off of this. Monetization is good when it comes, but that is not my driving force. As I said, I just want to share. I want to help, um, and because this was given to me, God gave me the Spirit, gave me this idea. Spirit gave me the God that was just planted in me to share years ago. I didn't know how. I just followed each step that presented itself. So monetization is not my drive. This is not a side hustle for me. I don't have a side hustle. Well, I do make jewelry, but I haven't made enough for it to actually become a hustle. Um, so that being said, 3 years on Spreaker with minimal um, listeners and $2.08 of monetization. I started to get really discouraged with the podcast, except for YouTube. I mean, I'm grateful that I have that the YouTube channel is getting um, the my episodes out. However, for the podcast in and of itself and all of the content on there, it's nothing there. It's nothing. There's no movement. So at the beginning of the year, January, um, it was my intention to begin focusing more on the podcast. I had taken a break from podcasting. I was just doing the YouTube videos, and when I decided to start back last month, um, it's a very heavy intention within me to really focus on the podcast more and focus on how to reach a community or create community centered around authenticity and our real life stories, like people telling real life stories, people that are vulnerable enough to just open their hearts and share the truth about what they've experienced. I really want to reach that group of people. And lo and behold, within the last 2 weeks, I have had two um, podcasting, um, I don't know what to call them, sites or hosts, or anyway, I've had two different people reach out to me. First of all, congratulating me that I have made it to 27 episodes. And they said that most people do not do that as podcasts. Most people do not do that. So that really encouraged me to continue going forward. I said all this to say that I think that the podcast, I am going to switch hosts and I am going to begin learning more about podcasting and making this part of my life more available um, to others. So that is very exciting for me. And then on the other side, the YouTube channel is also evolving. I will begin, um, I'm an author, so I will begin adding um, stories that I have written on the YouTube channel. I will begin doing oracle and tarot readings. And I also I don't know how I blanked on this, but I have so much content from about 4 years ago when I first started doing shorts or reels on Instagram. I was on my way I was training to get back on stage as a bodybuilder after 36 years. And so I started doing videos, little reels and shorts, and I completely forgot about them until a few weeks ago. So if you are also a part of the YouTube channel, I'm encouraging you to uh, pay attention. A lot is going on. So anyway, had to let's get that out of the way. So what I want to talk about today um, is very, y'all, I don't even know what to say. I am still in awe of how the universe works and moves. So if you are new to me, um, words, I don't, people, we get so caught up in words. Um, Authenticity the hard way is not about religion. However, um, I was co-pastor of a church and prophet over two other churches for many years, and I have my religious background is Christianity, Pentecostal. However, my spiritual journey began long before I became a Christian. And while I will never bash religion or any denomination, I am all inclusive, which may push some people away, and that is totally your choice. So for me to say God, the universe, spirit, um, vibration, energy, it's all the same. So please don't get caught up in the terminology that I use, because I want to be able to speak to everyone. And in order to be able to speak to everyone, I have to know and be comfortable with using the language or the words that other people use. You know, if you want to go to a foreign country, you have to learn that country's language. If you're going to go to Spain, you better learn how to speak Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to speak when in Rome. To us in Romans, right? So I will change up my terminology with no disrespect to anyone. I promise. So I'm still in awe of how my life has just evolved in such a way. There were experiences in my early when I got saved and met Jesus and the archangels and spirit, and when spirit was filled with the Holy Spirit, and God began speaking to me in a very personal way as my father. And then my archangels would come and speak to me. And my whole life just opened up to the celestial realm or the spiritual realm. And I have been journaling my communications with spirit, and these entities for years. And down through the years, I have been constantly told that I am an avatar for many ascended masters, for many deities. And back then, I didn't know. I was still learning. I didn't know what a master was. I didn't know what um, uh, an entity was. I didn't understand all of these the metaphysical world. That's what I thank you, Spirit. The metaphysical world, the world beyond the physical. And if you're new to the channel, I am studying. I'm getting my bachelor's degree in metaphysical sciences. So my early years of just knowing God, the Trinity, stabilized me and opened me up to all that is in a world that we cannot physically see. And for years, I was prophet, seer, or just oracle. um, and then queen. People began calling me queen. And my identity has slowly been crumbling and building down through the years. My first encounter with any entity was I spoke it in, I can't remember if it was one of the YouTube channels or it may have been my last episode on the podcast, but I believe it was. A friend of mine had given me her little altar, and I sat and chanted Name Rinkyo over and over. And when I felt the shift within myself and really began chanting from deep within me, I literally lifted up off the ground. I levitated off the ground, and the shock of it totally brought me out of the trance state, and I fell back on the ground with a thud. That was my first actual encounter with spirit in a different way. However, I have been empathic all my life and telepathic as well. And so as a little girl, I was terrified because I could hear people's thoughts, feel people's emotions and intentions, and didn't understand what it was. So of course I thought there was something wrong with me. But I have been in tune with the spiritual realm all my life. So as I have grown, matured, evolved into a wider space of spirituality and learning about energy and vibration, there's been a major, major change in my mental understanding of who I am, all of the things that I have been called down through the years from different entities, different beings, has all come to a head as of 3 weeks ago. So, how do I want to say this? So, what happened 3 weeks ago? I did a reel on Instagram and I promoted it. And I believe it, excuse me, I believe it was about the YouTube channel. But just authenticity, the hard way YouTube channel. And I got a ton of new followers because of that reel. And I started noticing that there was one individual that would comment on my reels and shorts and with things like, hail her. What an honor to know you, goddess. What an honor to worship you. And they I would see them and it would just like raise a flag in my head, like, okay, this is, and the energy that I got from it was like, this is totally different. And then of course my analytical mind is like, okay, perhaps this is a crazy person. You know what I'm saying? Because there's people out there that are just, I don't want to say crazy, different. I mean, yeah. But the support that he was giving me, that my Instagram supporting me through that was very felt, and encouraging. And so one day I just thanked him for supporting me, and his response was, it's an honor to worship you. And I was like, oh, okay. I bow before you. I think that was something else that he had messaged me back, and I thanked him. And then he asked me a question. One day he asked if he could ask me a question. I said sure, and he simply said, "Are you a deity?" And my life froze in that moment. And I'm going to get off of that and explain to you why it froze. So we have been in our apartment now 2 years. Before these 2 years, like I said, I have met a whole world full of celestials and entities that have come through, even aliens as of last year, 3 years ago. Even aliens, I've spoken with the Arcturians, the Palladians. And so I've gotten comfortable with knowing that there is a whole world of support out there. And I can tell the difference between the different kinds by the way I feel, by the energetic change around me. I have met ones that came to do no good because of the fear or the I don't want to say fear because I was not afraid, but the tone and the feeling of it was on a darker side. I remember one night I was sleeping and I felt a shift in the atmosphere of my room, and I also felt a shift close to me, and then it felt like somebody was running their hands up and down my legs, tickling me, and then it was gone. Trickster of some sort. I did later find out that one of my Orisha is a trickster, but I'll get to that. So anyway, there was a point, and I believe I put in the other video in one of my other episodes, the one before this. So if I'm repeating myself, just bear with me. But about 5 years ago, God told me to stop identifying as a Christian. Because I am not religious, I am spiritual. And his reasoning was that in order for me to be accepted with all of the gifts and the talents and the abilities that I have in the church, I would have had to be Christian for me to be accepted. Otherwise, I would have been considered demonic because of what I can do. And that's a whole different mini episodes probably. But I understand because some of the things that I can do within the church setting can be backed up by scripture, which is very important at that time in my life. So there was that shift for me from being religious into being spiritual. And once that shift happened, then a whole nother world was opened up to me. And that's when I began learning about, that's when connection or communication with um, more like Shiva and I'm missing Asian deities. Thank you, Spirit. I'm feeling so tongue tied right now. I was just flooded by interaction with Asian entities and Shiva, Brahma, everywhere. It was just I was like a major learning curve as far as that spirituality. And then when we moved here, in our apartment, my world opened up to learning about the Yoruba Orisha, who are also a part of Santeria. It was startling. What happened was startling. Oh, right, thank you. Okay, so motorcycle going by. If you could hear it, disregard. There was something that I want to say before I get into my introduction to the Orisha. I need to go back to 2009. In 2009, I had fled from my family to my aunt in New York because I was just really crumbling. And my aunt is, right now, she is going through dementia. It's very traumatic right now. But when I was with her in 2009, I was trying my hardest to find myself some type of way because I totally plunged deep into her world. She was very high society. Uh, she changed my wardrobe completely. Um, Broadway shows, champagne brunches, um, clothes that were totally opposite of what I wore. Um, I really just had to become her, a little her, so to speak. Um, and so, in an attempt to try and find and keep some type of cohesiveness with myself, I started trying to go out to churches outside of her church. And I ended up going to a church in the Bronx. And one day I had been to, this was my second time going to this church. I don't even remember how I got there. I think I just went on the internet and found a church that looked nice. And I knew I was learning the subway. So I knew where that subway, but that train was where I needed to get on. And it was just one train. And so I just just dove completely in the Aries me, um, and made my way there. The second Sunday that I went, there was no one on the train. There was two people sitting across from me. I was at the end, towards the end of one car, at the door leading to the next car. And there was a man sitting on the side of me. There were two people sitting across from me, and two people scattered down to the other end of the train towards the other door. And it was very quiet, and energetically still in the train. And I began to feel, thank you, Spirit, like my spidey senses went up. I started to notice I was kind of on high alert. I felt something getting ready to happen. And then the car door at the opposite end of me opened, and I looked over. Everybody looked over, and it was the drunk transient. Probably he looked like he had, he lived on the street, um, completely drunk. He was staggering, like barely holding himself up. But my attention was drawn to him. Every part of me was drawn to him. So I was just looking at him. And the two people down there, they kind of cringed as he walked by. But I didn't feel any danger. I didn't feel any need for concern. I just felt that I should watch him. I needed to watch him. And he's stumbling and stumbling and stumbling. And when he got about, I'm not good with feet, but I'd say maybe 4 or 5 feet away from me, I noticed that he started to straighten up, and his face began to kind of, He began to sober up. That's what I'm trying to say. And with each step that he took, getting closer to me, he became more sober, and the stench of alcohol went away. The two people sitting across from me and the person sitting next to me literally sat straight up and watching me and watching him. And I had my eyes on him. Y'all, when he got right in front of me, I'm getting goose pimples. He turned and looked directly at me, bowed down on his knees, got down on his knees and bowed before me. It was about 20 seconds, 25 seconds that this man was on his hands and knees, not smelling like alcohol, looking completely normal, quote unquote. And then he stood up, made eye contact with me again, and I felt a rush of energy just flood my body. And he stood up, turned back towards the other car door, on the other side of me, leaving the car. And as each step that he took away from me, he got drunk all over again, started staggering. The stench came back, and he made it to the car door, opened it, stumbled his way out into the other car, and was gone. Everybody was staring at me. I was staring at me. I got goose pimples, and then I got really cold. And inside of me, I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And I went to the church. I can't even remember what the message was that the pastor was preaching, but God was speaking to me and saying, you are honored in your capacity as goddess. That was the first time I had heard goddess. After that, people started calling me queen. I started meeting people calling me goddess, just even in passing. So that was a marker. So that was 2009, 2023. Wow, 2023. We moved here. I was walking in our apartment one day. So me and my daughter, right? We were learning. We just were kind of like initiated, meaning our attention was just drawn to crystals and candles, and energy, learning how the energy of crystals, learning metaphysical stuff, right? How herbs and spices, flowers, witchery was what I was trying to explain one time to one of my friends. It was like, I feel like we're being initiated as witches, good witches, but witches nonetheless. Which for me was a complete flip, because the word witch, anything to do with that, was demonic. And that God would hate me if I had anything to do with that. That is how I was raised spiritually. But here we were moving into this apartment, and these things were everywhere on YouTube, everywhere. To the point where we started buying crystals, and I started making jewelry because I like beads, and crystal jewelry. And I was like, well, I can do this. I know I can do this. So I started making crystal jewelry. We started, everything on YouTube started coming up about frequency music, meditation music, everything outside of gospel music that I listened to, a totally different stream, a totally different world just opened up for us. Now, I had been learning crystals and learning about the moon, and how it affects us, learning more about astrology, but in segments, like in passing down down the years. But this was like a serious initiation. One day I came home from work and there was this beautiful African woman's picture. Um, uh, just beautiful. She looked like a goddess. I didn't know what she was, but the music, it drew my attention, but not in a way that was like, oh, I'll listen to that. But it was like a pay attention. And I was like, okay. So I started, that's what, like I said, I started learning about um, Hinduism, Buddhism, all that stuff. And on a side note, it's important for me to say that there has been a lot of demonic activity in our lives, all of my life. Um, my mother-in-law's church, where I was co-pastor of, we dealt with a lot of demonic activity. We did deliverances. We did uh, fasting and praying and um, deliverance services and one-on-one deliverances. So I'm very well um, educated and experiential in dealing with demonic activity. There have been witches that have come through my family. And oh, during this time, there was one that was very close to my family. And I say that to kind of give more breadth to this. So one day, um, one night I had put my crystals out and I was just sitting here meditating. And there was a change in the atmosphere of my room, and an entity came through. And all I knew, she said her name, Oye. And she began speaking to me with an authority in my life that I was not afraid of. I felt like she had been in my atmosphere, but way, way behind the scenes. So there was no fear. There was a recognition of her presence, but not of a communication. And she began to speak with me, and she began saying that there was a whole nother world that was ready for me to enter in, and that I was ready to enter into, far beyond my archangels, far beyond um, spirituality as I knew it, and that I had a prominent place in this world. And as I was listening to her speak and I closed my eyes, the image that formed in my head of her was the same woman that was on the television the day that I walked in, and she just captured me. So after she spoke with me and I sat and I meditated with it, then Spirit, God, all that is, Source, spoke with me and said, it is time for you to open up. It is time for you to understand the totality of who you truly are, of all that is represented within you. There are masters that you are in connection with, that I am an avatar for many. Time went on, I began sitting with Oye, and then other Arisha began to come. Yemaya, Elegua, Obatala, Oye, Shango, just one after another, like I was on a 3-month learning curve about Yoruba Orisha, and they all came and visited me, sat with me, taught me about myself, and within them. So one day I go out to work, and in the corner of our apartment, and the one that is actually catty corner up from us, in the corner, there were one morning there were cat guts in that corner. And I went over and looked at it, and immediately in my mind, I thought that um, that it was that because there's a cat that lives over there, and I thought that it was. At first, I thought it was rat guts. I'm sorry, rat guts. And I'm looking at them like, if a cat had did that, the guts would have been like eaten up and chewed up. These were perfectly formed. I'm sorry, it's going to be graphic. I should have said that at first. Um, they were very formed. And then there was blood smeared around them. So I showed my daughter, and I scooped it up, and I went and took it to the trash, and I went to work. In my mind, and in my daughter's mind, we are thinking that this one particular female who is claiming, has said that she's a dark witch for as long as we've known her, that, and she has very intimate dealings with my family. We thought it was black magic, demonic. So that immediately, me and my daughter, we went casting out the devil. We everything that I had learned during deliverances, everything, we went and got all kind of stuff from the La Botanica. We holy water. We got all kind of stuff, sage, and everything. Like we were on a mission. And that happened over and over again. I would get up, get ready to go to work. There'd be guts sitting in that corner. The second time, there was no blood smeared around it. But friends, when I tell you that it looked like a cat had been cut open and the guts had just gently been lifted out, fully intact, and placed in that corner, it was, unless you had a lab and you were some type of scientist or doctor, would you know how to do this with such precision? My other kids kept saying, Mom, no, that's a cat. And I'm like, no, it's not a cat. This is something totally different. And each time it happened, I did not feel fear. And that's what really bothered me. I did not feel like it was something demonic, but it was something absolutely. So about the fourth time, I was like, okay. And so it was so bad till my daughter got a little camera to put in our window right over where it was happening. Each time that it happened, we went back to look at the footage. We saw nothing. It was nothing there. Okay. I start really focusing on this. And one morning, Oye came and sat with me. No, I went. What I did was we went back to the La Botanica. I got a black candle, and I wrote out um, a script for casting out demons and darkness and ill intent. And I went and I lit the candle, and I did this whole little ceremony. And the next morning, Oya came and sat with me, and she said, "This is not as you perceive." She went on in this discourse, this conversation, telling me that this is not demonic, but an initiation into my next calling, into my next evolution, callings, right? My next transformation, the next realm that I was moving into. She said that in their time, they did grand ceremonies where animals were slaughtered and their body parts used for certain symbolism and these things to initiate um, their followers in. And she plainly said, "We cannot do that now in your culture. This cannot be done. So we are doing the best that we can for your initiation. This is not about darkness. This is about you moving further into your light. You must make peace with what is happening." And she told me what to do. Get a pink candle and to accept this initiation and be willing to become what I had been chosen to become, which is, I'm blanking on the word again, High Priestess of Oye. And lo and behold, I accepted that. It took me a while, and I sat with it. I spoke with everyone that I spoke with, all of my archangels. It's just intent with this, and God and everyone. I mean, it was like a major congregation of support that this is the way I'm supposed to be going. A few days after that, y'all, when I had really made up my mind, okay, my life is changing. Everything about my life is changing. Everything about what I thought spirituality to be, the depth of it, the width of it, the breadth of it, everything was changing. And I needed to embrace it and change and evolve within it. And I made up in my mind that I would. When I went to sleep after thinking about this, I woke up to a cat crying. So on my side of the apartment, I'm at the driveway into our parking in the back of the parking lot. So you come up our driveway, and then there's the dumpsters, and you turn, and there are our parking stalls. So right at the corner where your car would turn to go to your stall, I heard a cat crying. It was so sad. It was so horrible. And in my mind, I was like, it's happening. A cat is being sacrificed. This is happening right now. And then the cat went silent. I got up, my alarm went off. I did my morning routine. I walked outside, and in the corner, there were the guts again. And I almost cried. I kept it together. I gathered the guts in a plastic bag like I'd been doing. I walked down to go throw it in our dumpster. And there was white cat fur all over the driveway, separating me from the dumpster. I had to walk through the fur to get to the dumpster. And as I was walking, I felt like I had entered in, like I had gone through the initiation. And that night, all of my Orisha, all of my archangels, like there was a literal ceremony. I have a little table that I use, and I had my crystals out. I had my candles lit. And there, everyone just came. And there was an initiation and so much gratitude for my acceptance. And then everything in my life, just more and more information just flooded me and flooded me and flooded me and flooded me. So I said that to lay the foundation for this man on my Instagram appearing and asking me if I am a deity. And I explained to him about Oye. I explained to him about, yes, I have been initiated. And his response was, I knew it. I knew it when I saw your first reel. I knew it. So this man, and I really, y'all, this is one of those learning curves where you have to step out of, well, I had to step out of my conditioned human mind and allow receptivity of what this man was telling me. Not only that, Oye, I bought a book because when he said that, and I confess, yes, I am, I am the avatar for Oye. There was a spark in me. Okay, I need to learn more. So I bought a little book on Oye, and it's 65 pages. But her life as an Orisha. So if you don't know, just side note, Oye is Storm in the X-Men. Now there is more to that I just learned this morning, but that actually in the comics, old comics, there was a character, a young girl named Oye, who was actually this Orisha growing up and learning her powers. And somehow, and in that comic book, Storm and one of the other X-Men went and found her, and Storm took her under her wings. And anyway, that's off topic. But Storm is Marvel's equivalent to Oye. So in reading this book, Oye she is the goddess of transformation. She is the goddess of wind and change, chaotic wind, storm. And so as I'm coming into myself in this, when we moved here, 555 was the number that I kept seeing everywhere I went. 555 was there, to the point where on my door, my address is room 555. My daughter's room is 222. We have these numbers up on our door. My numbers are painted red. And everything these last 2 years, especially in this apartment, but beginning 3-4 years ago, has been about transformation and change. Major transformation, almost like the tower moment, the tower of the tarot cards. And that's what Oye is. It's quick, fierce, chaotic, disruptive change. that has hit my life over and over and over to get me to this place that I am now. So my life experience mirrors her as an Orisha and what she did as the goddess, deity of change and transformation. So you, God, the universe, all that is, has just brought this man into my life. And he is all about worshiping Black women as goddesses as we are. And he blew my mind. I'm like, all right, this is very weird. This is very strange. I will not discount anything that this man says because this is his life. This is what he believes. He believes that he is here to worship and honor Black women because all Black women are goddesses. Because, and so what I asked him, like, well, how did you happen upon this? So his parents are from North Africa. He's raised in the Bronx, I believe. And as a little boy, he was just very attracted to the stature and the demeanor of Black women. It just awed him. He was amazed to the point where it put him on a journey of learning about Black women. And it has been proven, and don't trust me, look it up for yourself, that humanity, that human beings did come from a Black woman. I'm paraphrasing. Don't quote me like I said, but as they have done their archaeological research and all these things, DNA and blah, 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 however they fixed it, however they found it, that's where they have narrowed it down to, being a Black woman. So major, major paradigm shift for me, and my life. And so then I started, we just started having this conversation, and I'm asking him, so there is no intimacy. You get into these relationships. He was actually a houseboy where his whole desire is just to worship, honor, kneel and grovel, his own words, kneel and grovel at the feet of Black women because he honors, respects Black women as goddesses. And when he told me that, and I sat during my communion and meditation time, I'm like, okay, I need someone, any one of y'all, all of y'all, to explain to me what is happening right now. And God spoke and said, he is here to remind you of who you are. And then Oya spoke and said to give you credence, to fully convince you of who you are as High Priestess of Oya, of your divinity as a master, as the avatar that you are for this generation of the world, for this point in humanity. Your voice, your power to understand and maneuver through chaotic storms and come out the other side as you are, more powerful, stronger, wiser, being the gateway to usher others through their chaotic storms into the clearing. And then I had to sit, y'all, and take into account. So I said that. So the universe, if you are on your path, you have a course that you have been chosen to travel. You are not alone. You have been chosen to live this life as whatever avatar you are. Buddhas, Christ, Krishna, Shiva, their spirits have embodied people to do a work. And this may be far-fetched, I understand, but this is just me sharing my life, my truth with you. There are powers and entities beyond our understanding that are willing to help us, that have chosen us for this day and age to spread truth and open up the minds of other people. So I had to sit back and take into account every relationship that I have been in my entire life. I have moved in and out of people's lives like a storm. I'm talking about their spiritual, mental, emotional lives. So I've been homeless and have had to bounce from place to place and job to job and home to home like a storm, bringing change, encouraging elevation by the way that I live my life, by the fact that I refuse to give up, by the fact that I understood that for years I was going through a dark night of the soul that literally broke me down to nothing and refused to stay down at nothing and fought to rise again and again and again. And I'm sharing this with you because if you feel like there is nothing but drama and trauma and chaos in your life, if you get out of one storm and you turn around and that there's another one, let me speak to you from the place of the storm itself. Storms are not bad. Storms clear away the debris that is no longer useful for who you are becoming. The high winds rip up and tear up stuff that is dead and old, and it's time for it to be removed. The chaos shakes loose thought processes, paradigms, core beliefs, false identities that have to come down. The earth has to shake loose false footing, false foundations that have to be destroyed. Hurricanes and tornadoes come to sweep all of that away. And what happens after the storm? After the storm and the land has been cleared, it's time to rebuild. It's time to build anew. That's what the storm is for. That's what the chaos is for. That is transformation. 9/11 happened. The Twin Towers were demolished. And it woke us up on so many different levels. In our country, it woke us up. it caused us to open up our minds that there are forces in control that we don't know about. You understand what I'm saying? That was a storm. That was chaotic. That was horrible. But it woke us up and it shook us. Authenticity the hard way. It's the storms. It's the chaos. It's the utter destruction of all that we know to be true to that point. Revealing all we thought was true that absolutely was false. Showing us that the ground that we stood on as we thought was firm was shifting and not as solid and as sturdy as we thought it was. Your life has to experience storm. And maybe perhaps right now I am being that storm in your life right now. There is a whole world awaiting you. There is transformation that is awaiting you. Just like I had to accept the initiation with the guts and everything, I had to accept that as an initiation. You must be initiated into the next level, the next version of yourself. And that initiation is oftentimes through trauma and pain, disruption. And it is not a bad thing. Babies are born into this world through trauma. Their initiation from being enclosed in our womb to becoming separate entities or beings of their own, they must go through the canal. They must go through the pressure, barring there's a need for a cesarean. Understand what I'm saying? But even in that, that is traumatic. That the baby has to be pulled out, which is worse than the actual natural flow of birth. But yet and still it is traumatic. You have to be birthed into the next. A child has to be birthed into their separateness as a new being, a new entity in a new world. Whew, that was a lot. Honey, let me tell you, if you totally give yourself to your journey to the next highest version of yourself, all the world you can see and the metaphysical world you cannot see, will rally together and bring to you everything that you need to make it to that next version, to that next realm. It will bring people to come alongside with you to give you information you didn't even know existed. And to even give you honor and praise for who you are. Support will come to you from various places. Information will come to you from various streams, as long as you continue to move through the storms. And when you get to the end of the storm and you are in this new place where it's time to build or rebuild, then you build from a higher, more powerful place, a place of more authority. And I tell you what, learning all that I have learned within these last weeks with this gentleman, leading me to the book on Oye, combined with all of my experiences up to this point, I tell you with everything in me, there is a confidence and an authority within me that I am now ready to initiate all of my plans for the YouTube channel, for the podcast, for my life as high priestess, or as prophet, or as oracle, or as healer, all of the things, scribe, all of the things, the terms that have been placed in front of me and given to me. I am so ready to move forward into that. This is the year of the fire horse. We are moving through fire with fire. Fire just happens to be one of Oye's things. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. Honey, I did all of this, said all of this to encourage you, to provoke you, to push you even into that next level that you have been prepped and poised to move into. Everything that you want to do in this year, at this stage of your life, it's time to get on it. It is time to move your projects, your desires to the next level and just go for it. You can do it because I'm doing it. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I know this is longer than usual. I apologize. Oh, I can't apologize because it is what it is. I had to do this, and I'm so grateful that I did. Thank you for staying with me through the duration of this. May you feel empowered and encouraged to move forward. It's your time. And know that you are not alone. You are absolutely not alone. And I am here. My contact will be in the description for this episode. And you can, the YouTube channel, I'm building a place for us in our authenticity. Join me. I love you so much. And please don't give up. When the storms come, do not give up. Stand strong and move forward. I love you. Thank you for joining me.